going to try to clear up a couple questions on which method should I choose, which term or which way should you solve these, and when is it appropriate. So the first thing is, if you do not have a b term, okay, this is pretty much the only time you do this. If you don't have a b, so you don't have an x, you just want to set it equal to x squared equals a whole number. Then take the square root of both sides. So, for example, okay, look at this first one. 5x squared minus 20 equals 0. So there's no x, right? It's like 5x squared plus 0x's minus 20. So I want to get x squared by itself. Okay, I could divide by 5 first if I wanted to. Okay, I'm going to actually add 20 to both sides first. It really doesn't matter. Then I'm going to have 5x squared equals 20. Okay, so now I want to divide both sides by 5, which gives me x squared equals 4. So I have it down exactly to what I'm supposed to, okay, to this x squared equals c. So now I should have left more space. You take the square root of both sides. The square root of 4 could be 2 or negative 2. Okay, and those are my two answers. You could go about like the roundabout way, which I know some of you guys I think left today thinking like, I'm just going to do quadratic equation every time. Okay, you would be left with 5x squared plus 0x minus 20 equals 0. And then you're going to have to come over here and plug in like negative 0 or 0 plus or minus the square root, 0 squared minus 4 times 5 times, like it's going to be a big long thing. Okay, you can still do that to get these two answers, but it's just not worth it. Okay, so first thing you should look for is if you have a b term or not. Okay, look at the next example. This is already set up with x squared and then a whole number. There's no b term. So right away, I want to get x by itself. I'm just going to divide both sides by 4. So x squared equals 11 over 4. Okay, simple as that. So I'm going to do the same thing I did up here. I'm going to take the positive and negative square root. So I get x equals the positive or negative root of 11 over 4. Okay, and today we talked about how we're going to be writing decimal answers. So I'm just going to take the square root of 11 over 4. I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to round to, I think we said we're doing the tens place, so 1.7. And then obviously the negative root is just going to be negative 1.7. Okay, so those are my two answers. So when there's no b term, get it to x squared is c, and then take the root of the square root of both sides. So what happens if it's a trinomial? Okay, now what? And there's a little guy who says, help. Okay, oh, you can't see him. So it's a trinomial. Now what? So this is, I think, where some of y'all were getting kind of confused. So I've made a little like flow chart, kind of choose your own adventure type situation. And what we're going to do is ask yourself this question first. Can I factor it? Okay, if you could factor it, yes or no. So let's do the yes first. I can factor it. Do it. Factor and set each factor equal to 0. So if you are able to factor, that's what you need to do. Okay, that's going to be way easier than trying to complete the square or do a quadratic equation. So it's unfactorable. Okay, I've tried it. There's no combination where I can like multiply them together to get the third term and add to get the middle. So there's only two possibilities. If it's just a plain x squared plus bx plus c, okay, then we're going to complete the square. Okay, if it's x squared plus bx plus c, so like if this number in front, okay, is like a 1, right? There's no number. That's going to be easiest to complete the square. If, okay, it has a whole number in front, or even a fraction, I guess, okay, ax squared plus bx plus c, that is when we're going to use the quadratic formula. Okay, so screenshot this or something. Okay, it's a trinomial. What do I do? Okay, ask yourself, can I factor it? If I can, factor. Set each factor equal to 0. If I can't factor it, which one is it? If it's just an x squared, complete the square. If it's an ax squared, use the quadratic formula, the square root. So this is a trinomial. So first thing I need to do, is there anything I can take out of all of them? No. So what can I do next? If I set up the two parentheses, is there anything I can do to multiply to get negative 20 that's going to add to give me 6? So that's pretty much it. So I'm going to refer back to my little chart. Okay, can I factor it? No. So which one is it? Does it have just an x squared or an ax squared? It has just x squared. So because it's just an x squared, I'm going to complete the square. So to complete the square, I need to add 20 to both sides. So that gives me x squared plus 6x equals 20. But remember, what we're doing is creating this blank, okay, on both sides. So what goes inside that blank is c. And to get c, I do 6 over 2 squared. Well, 6 over 2 is 3. 3 squared is 9. So 9 goes here and here. So what I'm left with is x squared plus 6x plus 9 equals 29. And the whole purpose behind doing that was so I can get this to x plus 3 squared equals 29. Okay, and essentially what we've done, let me see if I can find my other paper. Okay, is essentially what we've done now is almost made it into where there's no b term. We've got it into an x squared situation equals a whole number. But instead of just an x, it's this whole thing squared equaling this whole number. So now all I have to do is take the square root of both sides. So x plus 3 equals the positive or negative root of 29. Then I want x by itself, so I'm going to subtract 3. So I get x equals negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 29. And I'm done. And that's it. So because this was just an x squared, okay, I completed the square and then got my answers. Oh, and let's actually work it out. I should have done that. So negative 3 plus the square root of 29 gives me 2.4, or negative 3 minus the square root of 29 gives me negative 8.4. Okay, so since we're getting numerical answers, okay, that is that. So on my next one, first thing I want to check for is if I can divide all of them by a number. And I can. I can divide all of these by 2. Okay, whatever I do to one side, I do to the other. So that gives me x squared plus 8x plus 15 equals 0, because 0 divided by 2 is 0. So is there anything I can multiply together to make 15 that's going to add to give me 8? Yes, there is. X times x makes x squared. This is a plus sign, so it means 2 of the same. It's 2 plus signs. Then what can you multiply to make 15 that adds to give you 8? 5 and 3. Then all I have to do is take each of these factors, set them equal to 0, subtract 5, x is negative 5, or subtract 3, x is negative 3, and I'm done. Okay, no completing the square, and no quadratic equation. So I should have showed you this first. Okay, can I factor it? Yes. So I factored, and I've set each factor equal to 0. And again, you could have completed the square, or you could have done the quadratic formula, but this is much easier. So next one, what is this mess, right? It doesn't even look like a trinomial. So I need to make it into the proper trinomial form, okay, ax squared, bx, and c. So I'm just going to move everything to the left side. So I'm going to subtract 4x, and then I'm also going to subtract 10. So my new equation, right, these cancel, is 5x squared minus 6x minus 10 equals 0. Okay, so now it's a trinomial. It looked funky at the beginning, but I've got it in the right order now. So I'm going to refer back here. Okay, it's a trinomial. Now what? Can I factor it? No. Okay, I could set it up and get some check, but that's just kind of a big mess. So because this is a 5, right, I'm just going to say, no, it can't be factored. So which one is it? It's not this one. It's this one because it has ax squared. So I'm going to use the quadratic formula. Okay, to use the quadratic formula, it's negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac, and the whole thing is over 2a. So I'm going to fill it in with the numbers up here, a, b, and c. So x equals negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. Okay, I haven't worked this out yet, so I'm hoping I did it right. B squared minus 4 times a times c. Okay, good. So 6 plus or minus the square root, negative 6 squared is 36, minus 4 times 5 is 20. 20 times 10 is 200, but it's negative. All over 2 times 5 is 10. Okay, so 6 plus or minus the square root. This becomes plus positive, so it becomes 236 over 10. Okay, at this point, I'm going to get my calculator out. Okay, and I'm going to type in 6 plus the square root of 236, and then I'm going to hit enter, and then divide it by 10. So I get 2.1. Or it could be 6 minus the square root of 236. I hit enter and then divide by 10. So negative 0.9. If you're trying to type it all in one step, the problem is that if I type in 6 plus the square root of 236 over 10, okay, first of all, it's going to do the square root of 23.6. It's going to take this square root, because we didn't close our parentheses, and divide it by 10. Okay, even if I closed my parentheses and then hit divide by 10, because our calculators are scientific, it's going to do this divided by 10 and then add the 6. Okay, so we need to do it in steps, that, and then divide by 10. Okay, so those are my 2 answers. And I'm going to show you one one last example here. The bell's about to ring. So this one looks different because I can't set it equal to, if I subtracted or added 16x, it's not like my other ones that were 2 terms where I could just set it equal to something and then take the square root. Okay, this one, it doesn't really fit, and so it's kind of a trinomial because I could technically say add 0, but not really. So let's see if there's something I can do to it first. Let's see if I can factor. So 8x squared and 16x. Okay, give me like 1 minute. I'm just doing this thing for my algebra class. So 8x squared and 16x are both divisible by 8x. So if I take 8x out of both sides, that leaves me with x minus 2 equals 0. Okay, so it's factored. So now what I'm going to do, so I need to take each factor. 8x could be 0, or x minus 2 could be 0. Divide by 8, divide by 8, x is 0. Or here, add 2, and get x is 2. So those are my 2 answers. Okay, worst case scenario on something like this would be that we have 8x squared minus 16x, and then like plus 0 equals 0. Okay, and let's say you even plugged it into the quadratic equation. 4 times a is 8 times c is 0 all over 2 times a. Okay, so 16 plus or minus the square root of 256 minus 0 over 16. 16 plus 16 would be 32 over 16, which is 2. And then if I did 16 minus 16, that's 0 over 16 is 0. So I still get the same answers, 2 and 0, but by